Right, Nikki, the 2016 season is not far away. I know you've got a busy schedule of competitions coming up. So tell me a bit about how things are going and how your preparations are going for the new season.
No, it's going really well so far. This year I've taken a big step in to go full time, so I'm not working now. And I've got a new coach, Rob Cheetham, and yeah, we're getting on really well, and the programme's really good, and I'm seeing the changes of performance and training already. It's a lot more high intensity than I'm used to, so yeah, that's great. I start my season properly in May, kind of when the European water's warm enough to start. So I've got one in France in May, and then Staffordshire in June, and then Norway in July, and see what kind of points I accumulate there to see if I qualify for the World Champs, which are in Australia in September. If all goes to plan, that's the plan. And then to do a full Ironman at the end of the year to end the season on. There might be one or two other races in between, so aiming for probably about 4 or 5 half Ironmans and the full one at the end of the season.
Yep. So if everything goes to plan, and you end up in Australia, will that be the biggest thing you've done so far?
That will be the biggest as a pro triathlete. Yeah, that will be the biggest, and then aim kind of top 15 there.
Yeah.
It's quite close. That race is quite close to the Kona, the World Ironman Champs. It's about 4 weeks difference. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what athletes go. It's quite complicated in terms of the points process. There's kind of cut off times, and certain races you've got to go to, like the Ironman branded races, to qualify. And there's only so many. Obviously, the cut off points in July to qualify for the World Champs. So there's only so many races between kind of May and July you can actually do in Europe. So yeah, it's kind of a playing the game, kind of going to the races you've got to go to qualify. Yeah.
So what's your regime like at the moment then? Because obviously you've taken the decision to go full time,
Yeah.
which is great, but I should imagine there's a lot of hard slog hours, training sessions, miles on the bike, hours in the pool. So what's your sort of typical week like at the moment before you start competing?
It kind of depends on what phase you're in. At the moment, I'm just about to go into a massive build phase towards May, my first weekend of May. So it can range anything between 23 and probably 30 hours a week. But just because it's 23 hours doesn't make it easier. There might be a massive week of high intensity in that week. So yeah, it kind of depends. It varies between the two. There's a lot more running intensity than I'm used to, and kind of probably bike intensity actually than I'm used to. So I'm kind of adapting to that at the moment, but all seems to be going really well.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, you were a rower, weren't you, Nikki?
Yeah, I was.
Obviously
Yeah.
did well at rowing, but you had an injury.
Yeah.
Just sort of did the London Marathon almost for fun, and ended up getting a. So
Can
you just remind anybody who doesn't know?
So basically, I got into rowing at university. I went to Birmingham University to kind of go for the athletics, but I was quite a bit of a party animal still at that stage. Rowing at uni offered me kind of the social life and the kind of crazy training, so that's kind of where I started going into. So then I got into the World Class Start programme when I left the university and relocated down to, first of all, to Durham and then to Reading. And then, I got a quite serious rib stress fracture. I just kept getting stress fractures, breaking my ribs. So my coach was like, I think I needed a pair of running trainers to start running to kind of get down to race weight. And then Wiggle emailed me and was like, you've won a place into London Marathon. I was like, what? I do not run those kind of distances. I just did it for a bit of a laugh and ended up doing quite well there. And then I did an Ironman for charity with a friend and did okay there. And this is still when I was getting my rib stress fractures, and I was like, do you know what, maybe it's time to have a change. I had a serious rib injury probably for about a good year and a half, on and off. That's how I changed into triathlon.
Yeah, and you're happy with the decision you made, because obviously you have a very natural talent for it, but it does take an incredible amount of hard work now to get up to the next level, doesn't it? So do you love all the training and the hours you have to put in?
Oh, I love it. If you don't love it, you couldn't do it, especially full time. Even if you were an amateur, you couldn't do it unless you loved it. I actually love training. Get up every day and enjoy just training all day and pushing my limits, seeing where my body can go to.